Ready to dive into a world of high-stakes cybercrime? You guys sent us some wild articles about North Korea
Hmm.
and how they've basically become these masterminds of digital heists.
Yeah, it's incredible, right?
Totally. We're not talking about, like, guys in ski masks robbing a bank.
Right.
This is all about lines of code and servers and stealing millions, sometimes billions of dollars.
What I find fascinating is it's not just about the money for them, right?
Uh,
It's like a statement.
oh, yeah.
It's North Korea's way of saying, we're here, we're a force to be reckoned with, even with all those sanctions they're under.
Right, like you can try to squeeze us out, but we'll always find a way. And it's interesting, this whole story, it actually starts decades ago. Remember those super notes everyone was talking about?
Oh, yeah, the counterfeit $100 bills.
Yeah.
Almost perfect.
Yeah, so good. They were fooling like banks, experts, everybody.
Yeah.
And guess who was behind it?
Allegedly, North Korea. Which, when you think about it, is pretty audacious.
Ballsy, right. Flooding the world with fake money. Talk about undermining faith in a currency.
It was a brilliant strategy, for a while at least.
It worked. For a while.
The U.S. really cracked down in the early 2000s, though. Sanctions, sting operations, the whole 9 yards. It seemed like the supernote game was over.
But North Korea, they're like the masters of adaptation. They pivot, they evolve, and that's where the cybercrime comes in.
They realized the future wasn't about printing money, it was about controlling it digitally.
Exactly. And let's be honest, if you're going to be a criminal mastermind, cybercrime is where it's at.
Less messy than, blowing open a vault.
Way less messy. Potentially a much, much bigger payday. Plus, if you're good at it, you can be anywhere in the world. Pulling strings.
And they got good. They invested heavily in their cyber capabilities, training hackers, setting up elite units, sending them abroad to learn the latest techniques. Cybercrime became their way to thumb their noses at the world.
And make a ton of money while they were at it.
Let's not forget about that part.
Never. Okay, so let's get into some of these heists. You sent over a crazy detailed account of that Bangladesh bank heist back in 2016, right?
Okay.
$81 million, just gone poof. Like something out of a movie.
It's a perfect example of how North Korea operates. Meticulous planning, incredible patience. They weren't just after any bank either.
They went for the big leagues, huh?
They targeted Bangladesh Bank's connection to the SWIFT network, which, if you're not familiar,
I'll admit, I had to Google it.
it's basically the nervous system of global banking.
Yeah.
All those trillions of dollars moving around the world every day. SWIFT is how it happens.
So like super high security, all right? How do you even begin to hack something like that?
Well, you have to be clever and you have to be patient. Instead of going after SWIFT directly, which is incredibly difficult, they went after Bangladesh Bank's connection to SWIFT.
Sneaking in the back door.
Exactly. It took months, but they were able to infiltrate the bank's systems, learn their routines, plant malware. Think of it like a digital sleeper agent that allowed them to manipulate transactions, cover their tracks.
They basically went invisible inside the bank system.
In essence, yeah. They were able to make it look like these transfers were totally legitimate, authorized by the bank itself.
And nobody at the bank had any idea this was happening.
There were some red flags. The New York Fed, which handles a lot of these international transfers, they got suspicious.
Suspicious how? Like what tipped them off?
Well, they started seeing requests to move money to some, let's say, unusual accounts, private accounts, accounts linked to casinos, that kind of thing.
Casinos, huh? Always a red flag.
Right. The Fed started asking questions, but it was Friday afternoon, and
Uh-oh. Friday afternoon. Nothing good happens on a Friday afternoon.
by Monday morning, it was almost too late. The hackers had initiated transfers for almost $1 billion.
$1 billion.
That's what they were going for. But here's the thing, and this is kind of amazing. There was this one tiny detail, this little stroke of luck, that saved Bangladesh Bank hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay, now I have to know. What was the stroke of luck?
One of the transfer requests for $20 million had a typo in it. Foundation instead of foundation.
No way. A typo saved the day. You're kidding.
Sometimes, even criminal masterminds make spelling errors.
That's incredible. So the typo raised enough flags that someone hit the pause button.
Exactly. It was enough to trigger a more thorough investigation.
Yeah.
But even so, the hackers still managed to get away with $81 million.
Still, not a bad payday.
Not bad at all. But for North Korea, this was just the beginning, a taste of what they were capable of. Yeah, the Bangladesh bank heist, it was a wake-up call for a lot of people. North Korea was playing in the big leagues now, but they weren't done. Not even close.
Really? What happened next? Did they, like, try to pull off another bank heist?
They did, but they were also getting smarter, more strategic. they started going after different kinds of targets. Remember that article you sent about the Polish financial regulator?
Oh, yeah, yeah. That one was wild. Hacking into a regulator. It's like, why even bother with the banks if you can go straight to the source, right?
Exactly. It's like this, instead of robbing individual houses, why not just hit the central bank where all their money is stored?
Makes sense. In a terrifying kind of way.
Right. So they managed to get into this Polish regulator system. And here's the thing. This regulator, they hosted a bunch of websites that banks and financial institutions use all the time.
Wait, so like essential tools for these institutions, but maybe not as secure?
Bingo. By hacking the regulator, North Korea could basically set a trap for all these institutions at once.
Okay, now that is clever.
All right. And how many institutions are we talking here?
10, 20.
Try over 100. Major banks, central banks.
Yeah.
Even the World Bank was on their hit list.
You're kidding. The World Bank, like the one that's supposed to be like the gold standard of financial institutions?
The one and only. Now, thankfully, they didn't get anything from the World Bank. That attack was stopped. But still,
Yeah.
the fact they were even in a position to try, that tells you something.
Yeah, it tells you they're not messing around.
Not at all. And remember, it's not just about the money for them. It's about power, influence. They want to show the world they can disrupt the entire system, and they're getting really good at it.
Right, because if nobody trusts banks, if nobody trusts these institutions, I mean, what happens to the global economy?
Chaos. Instability. It's a scary thought.
It is. So what do we do? How do we stop them?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? It's a constant game of cat and mouse. But there's one more heist we need to talk about, because this one takes things to a whole other level.
Oh, what did they do?
Remember how we were talking about how they needed a way to actually get their hands on the money, right?
Yeah.
To turn all those stolen ones and zeros into cold, hard cash.
Right, right.
Well, they figured out a way. They found a new target.
ATMs?
ATMs.
Yeah.
The things that spit out $20 bills.
The very same. See, they realized that as good as they were at hacking, getting the money out was still a problem.
Because you can't exactly walk into a bank with a USB drive and say, I'd like to make a withdrawal.
Exactly. So they had to get creative, and that's where the ATMs come in.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Walk me through this. How do you even hack an ATM? Well, technically, they didn't hack the ATM itself. They hacked the bank that owned the ATMs, Cosmos Bank in India.
Cosmos Bank. Sounds familiar, but...
You probably haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
And that was the point. See, they realized that the big banks, they were getting better at defending themselves.
So they went after the little guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Smaller banks in countries that maybe don't have the same cyber defenses, those were the new targets. Lower risk, potentially a big reward.
Smart. Ruthless, but smart.
So over a few months, they basically took over Cosmos Bank systems. And I'm not just talking about like stealing data.
Yeah.
They were in control. They could do pretty much whatever they wanted.
That's terrifying. They were basically inside the bank, pulling the strings.
Yeah. Pretty accurate description, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets really interesting. It seems like the FBI, they caught wind of something. They knew a big ATM cash-out scheme was in the works. They just didn't know who or where.
Oh, man, that's got to be frustrating. Like knowing something's coming but not being able to stop it.
Right. And this time, the hackers, they were on a clock.
On a clock. Why?
Because once the FBI starts sniffing around, asking questions, it's only a matter of time, right? They had to move fast.
Okay, so what happened? Did they pull it off?
Oh, they pulled it off. August 11, 2018. They launched this coordinated attack all over the world.
All over the world?
They had people, money mules, stationed in 28 different countries. Each one had a cloned ATM card loaded with stolen funds.
Cloned card. Wait, how is that even possible?
That's the genius of it. Because they controlled Cosmos Bank systems, they could authorize the withdrawals themselves. The bank was literally telling the ATMs to give them the money.
No way. That is,
Yeah.
I mean, that's brilliant.
It was a masterpiece of a heist.
Yeah.
For 2 hours, these money mules hit ATMs, withdrawing as much as they could.
Yeah.
By the time it was over, they had over $11 million.
11 million. And
Yeah.
they just vanished.
Like ghosts. And that's the thing about North Korea and their cyber operations. They're constantly evolving, learning from their mistakes. What they did with Cosmos Bank, it was a game changer.
So where does that leave us? What happens when they decide to up their game again? What's next?
So we've gone from fake $100 bills to North Korea basically holding banks hostage from the other side of the world.
And doing it all right under the noses of some of the most sophisticated intelligence agencies out there. It's kind of terrifying when you think about it. Like, what's next? If they can pull off this ATM heist, what's stopping them from doing it again, but on a larger scale?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's
Yep.
not just about the money anymore, is it? It's about the message they're sending.
Right, like, we can do this. We can bring the whole system down if we want to.
It's about undermining trust, sowing chaos. They want to be seen as a force to be reckoned with, and they're doing a pretty good job of it.
So what do we do? How do we fight back against this kind of, like, digital warfare?
Well, there's no easy answer. On a global level, it's about cooperation, sharing information, coordinating defenses. These kinds of threats, they don't care about borders.
Yeah, it's like we're all kind of in this together now, right?
Exactly. But it's also about individual responsibility. Being smarter about our own security, our own data, being careful about what we click on, what we download. It's not just about governments and big banks anymore.
So, strong passwords, two-factor authentication, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps. And, the more we know about these threats, the better equipped we'll be to deal with them.
Knowledge is power. Right.
Never more so than in the digital age.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today. North Korea, they've really upped their game, and the scary part is we're only just beginning to understand the full extent of what they're capable of.
Absolutely. It's a whole new world out there. A big thank you to you, as always, for breaking it all down for us. And to everyone listening, stay safe out there, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.